everybody. So today I want to start talking about the novel Fahrenheit 451 that was written by Ray Bradbury. The first thing I want you to know about it, it's my favorite novel to teach. I really liked St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves. And when we get to Romeo and Juliet, I really like that play too. But in terms of novels, this one's my favorite. We're not going to get to reading it until next week. There's a couple things I want to do first, so you're in a better headspace before we get into it. And I guess we'll start by talking about the title. Why is it even called Fahrenheit 451? Well, 451 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature at which book paper burns, according to someone that told that to Ray Bradbury. Whether or not that's the actual temperature, and I guess it really does depend on what kind of paper the book is made out of. None of that is important. But if you just go ahead and accept that, okay, the title comes from the temperature that books burn. Okay, we're good. In this novel, our main character, whose name is Guy Montag, he's a fireman, but this is a piece of science fiction, so he's not a fireman like we know him. All right, he's in this novel, firemen don't put out house fires. In this novel, firemen burn books with flamethrowers. Why do they do that? I can't get into that quite yet. All right, but believe me, we'll get there. The novel was published in 1953, and it was based on a short story that was published in 1950 that Ray Bradbury also wrote, called The Fireman. And he just took that idea and expanded on it and developed it into a novel. Now, since this is a piece of science fiction, it's important to remember that this is a piece of science fiction from 1953. So a 1953 vision of the future is going to look a little different than a 2021 vision of the future. But I don't think that's really going to get in our way of understanding, what this novel's really all about. Like I said, this is a piece of science fiction, and this piece of science fiction does what a lot of other pieces of science fiction do. They take an issue and then they look to how bad it can get in the future, so we can kind of see the possible horrible repercussions of our current actions. This is not a concept you're unfamiliar with. If you look at the Terminator movie franchise or the Matrix movie franchise, both of those take the idea of, well, what would happen if we developed artificial intelligence and then that artificial intelligence said, no, I don't want you to be the boss of me anymore. In the Jurassic Park movie franchise, they play around with the idea of what some bad things could happen if we go too far with genetic engineering and cloning and that kind of stuff. Now, in terms of what does Fahrenheit 451 focus on and then take into the future and make really, really horrible, I'm going to hold off on that because of spoilers. So what about this 1953 vision of the future by Ray Bradbury? Well, a couple things. It's no Star Trek, all right? It's not set that far in the future. When is it set? We actually don't get a solid year, nor do we get a solid place. I can tell you that it's definitely in the United States of America. I can tell you some cities that it's not in. But generally speaking, it's those kind of details aren't given to us. But you're going to find that the setting isn't super futuristic. I mean, there's no spaceships, there's no transporters, there's no aliens from other worlds that visit or anything like that. There are some futuristic things that appear in this novel that in 1953, I'm sure they were like, oh, dare to dream. But in 2021, it's like, yeah, we already have that. One of the things is something called a seashell radio. Now get this, a seashell radio is a radio that's so small it could fit in your ear. And you could just walk around with these little radios in your ears all day and listen to music. Wouldn't that be cool if... Yeah, they're earbuds. That's about it. But in 1953, when radios were the size of dishwashers, dare to dream. Something else is going to be another futuristic invention that's going to play a big part in this novel is the parlor walls, which are TVs so big they take up the entire wall, which admittedly, that's pretty cool. I mean, our TVs now are a whole lot bigger than they were in 1953. They don't encompass the entire wall yet. Also in this novel, they refer to cars as Beetles. I do not think this is a specific reference to any Volkswagen model. I think it's just to give the reader an idea of a futuristic curved car. Again, from 1953. We're going to cut the guy some slack. The one futuristic invention that plays a big role that is pretty futuristic is something called a mechanical hound. And it's essentially a robot canine unit. Okay, more on that when we get into the novel. But beyond that, it's not a vision of the future that's years and years and years and centuries ahead. Now, are there movie versions of this novel? Actually, there's two. One was made in 1966, and I've seen pieces of it, and I'm not sure if or how I can show you pieces of it. I will try, but no, I'll just show you a couple pieces, and what you will probably do is hate it like I did. And if you misbehave, I'll make you watch more. No, I wouldn't do that. But the 1966 version is pretty lousy. All right, it's not good. And then in 2018, HBO Films made another version, and they cast Michael B. Jordan, who he's a cool guy. He was in Creed and Black Panther. Yeah, him. Yeah, with the abs, that guy. I will admit I have not seen the 2018 version. I've read plot summaries of it, and I can assure you the events of that film differ drastically with what happens in the actual novel. So now look, this is coming from a guy who loves movies. I love movies. But these movies are going to be no substitute for the novel. And I'm not suggesting that the novel is better than the movies, but the novel is considerably different than the movies. For instance, in the novel, we have our main character, Guy Montag, and he will meet another character named Clarice McClellan. Montag is, I believe he's 30, and Clarice is in her late teens. And in both movie versions, they alter things so there's some sort of romance between the two. They make her older in the movies. Otherwise, well, that's just creepy and wrong. But in the novel, there is absolutely no romantic relationship between those two characters. It's much more of a father-daughter relationship than anything else. Keep that in mind, especially if you've seen the 2018 version. All right? There is no romance between Montag and Clarice in the novel. So how am I going to present this novel this year in this weirdness? Well, look, a long time ago, The Walking Dead was a good show. And I watched it religiously. Every Sunday at 9, I would tune in. And unfortunately, because I had to work the next day and I go to bed early because I'm old, I couldn't usually stay up for the show that followed The Walking Dead, which was called The Talking Dead, which was a talk show, and they would discuss that particular episode. That's kind of going to be the format that I'm going to kind of copy the best I can. I mean, no, I don't have a film crew to shoot my own series of Fahrenheit 451. I will read it to you, and then afterwards we'll talk about each section that we read. There are a few sections of the novel that we'll be spending considerably more time than others, but you should expect a relatively familiar format of video plus activity or quiz. And as always, I encourage you to keep up, because it's always easier to keep up than to catch up. The other reason it's important to keep up on the videos is, well, let me tell you a story. In the summer of 2000, I was in Germany, and it was late at night and I couldn't sleep. So I turned on the TV and I flipped around some channels, and I happened upon a Japanese anime that was, they were still speaking Japanese, but there were German subtitles. So I figured, well, hey, we'll give this a go. We'll see how well I could understand this just by watching what's on the screen, listening to Japanese, and reading German. I don't know if I mentioned, I don't speak Japanese and I can't read German. Needless to say, I really didn't understand what was going on. Why am I telling you this? Well, if you try to get through this just by skimming through things and trying your best on the quizzes without doing any of the reading, you're not going to understand it and you're not going to like it. If you give it a chance and keep up with it and do the reading and the activities and quizzes that follow, I think there's a real good chance you'll like it. I mean, I can't guarantee that 100% because, different things for different folks and all, but at least you got a chance. But if you don't watch the videos and read along and that kind of things, then how can you understand it and how can you like it? That seems like it'd be pretty impossible, and I don't know why you would choose that path. But like I said in the beginning of the video, this is one of my favorite books of all time, and I can't tell you all the reasons why because of spoilers, but a couple of the reasons why I like this so much. The best characters in this, they don't seem to fit in. And I like stories about people that don't seem to fit in, especially when they don't fit in for good reasons. Another thing I like, it celebrates rebellion, but rebellion for a good reason. It's not just like, let's just break stuff because breaking stuff is cool. That's just vandalism. There's more reasons why I really love this novel, but I can't really get into them right now without giving away important plot details. So we're going to have to hold on for a bit on those. But I got favorite parts. I got favorite lines. I am legitimately considering getting a Fahrenheit 451 tattoo when my tattoo guy in Buffalo opens back up. I'm not even kidding about that. It's gonna go here. I just haven't quite decided on the actual design yet, but I got some things that I'm kicking around, and that's not even just another intro to. Are we gonna do another tattoo activity? No, I'm 100% legit. I think my next tattoo is gonna be a Fahrenheit 451 tattoo on this forearm. I like this novel that much. All right, so I made a short quiz that couples with this here video. It's in Schoology. I think you know how those work. Coming soon, before we get into the novel, we're going to be doing a thing on utopias and dystopias. If you don't know what those are, don't worry. We'll take care of that. And we're going to do something about banned books, like books that are like, you can't have that book, you young scholar. That kind of thing. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of days. So, hey, do well on the quiz. Don't forget, if you need to rewind or rewatch any part of this video, that's why I make these things. I'm psyched to get into this novel. All right, I'm gonna get out of here because this video is getting too long as it is. Later.